two.
Yeah, double plays.
Yeah. By not having a lot of those like you used to, is something lost in terms of just, the back and forth and kind of the.
Well, it eventually, I mean, whether it plays out that way or not, it's gonna create imbalance in terms of who ends up being the league champion, right? Because you're not playing everybody twice. You're only playing 3 teams. So who you play in that rotation that specific year, where you play and when, all those things still come into play. But obviously we didn't play everybody twice in the old Big Ten, so to speak, or the Big 14. But now it's even more where you only have 3 that you're seeing twice. So, and then obviously that's different we're one of 18 that this happens to. So I think for us, obviously it's obvious. You have Iowa and Minnesota in terms of bordering states, and then Illinois, and I don't know how it'll rotate through the coming years. I assume Iowa and Minnesota or one of the other will stay consistent, but I don't have proof of that. And then my guess is the third will rotate.
What number of conference games would you want in a perfect world? You had a choice.
Well, I'll say 34.
Really?
And that's been thrown out with our league. I mean, the coaches, and it's been nothing taken no further than just been tossed out, given the fact that you play everybody twice and eliminate non-conference games. But obviously that would have to change your game total because we can't play 34 games, in the regular season. So I don't know if there is a perfect answer. I think this, in the time being, staying at 20, we looked at 22. The math, we start to cannibalize yourselves in terms of tournament play. Backing off to 18 that's not the answer. The 20's been the reason we went was obviously to help push, strength of schedule, RPI, all those things that help try to get more teams from the Big Ten into the tournament.
With Iowa losing Freeman, I'm sure you get a little bit better sleep at night because he was so vital to, their shooting, and now they're able to space the floor. But how did you maybe see them just try to adapt without him after one game and free those guys like Sanford when they don't have that threat inside?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Josh Dix and Peyton Sanford carried a lot of the load. I think they shot 38 of their 58 shots, or 33 of their 58 shots. So obviously, regardless, even if Freeman was in there, you're going to have a high volume is going to go through Peyton and through Josh. But the other 5s that have been playing, whether it's Dembele, Mulvey, or Bronze, they're using them in similar situations, and they're kind of using a 3-prong approach. It's only been one game, so it's hard to take a huge sample size from it. But I don't see things different in what they're running the same stuff. It's just the ball and the shots were coming more, more to Peyton and to Josh. I think probably better positioning, I think, more than anything, and that's one thing with Steve. We've always tried to improve and press upon him the reaction and the anticipation, so you don't have to be reactive in terms of recognizing dribble penetration. Sometimes he gets caught or gets some blocks because he's just in a mosh pit in the paint and gets one there. But the recognizing and reacting and being proactive when dribble penetration is coming, and not being in a better position to start, and then when you do see the ball coming, going and meeting it at the lane line. So that's been a bigger, I think, an area we've improved. We've rotated with our bigs or our backside. It's not always a big guy, but the backside's gotten better at recognizing dribble penetration, and it puts you in a better position.
Ever since that game in Illinois, that challenged him, he's played a lot better. But the last couple of games, he hasn't scored as much. But I guess what's the difference between kind of the impact that he's provided in those games versus when you guys maybe challenging?
Yeah, I mean, he's been very steady, and I've never gotten too consumed in his scoring because he facilitates so much, and if he draws double teams or extra help or some digging, and he's going to create shots for others. And obviously we know he's a very willing passer, and it's a good playmaking position when you can throw the ball to a 7-footer at 8 feet and let him kind of distribute it from there. But again, we've seen a variety of coverages on him. Very few have played him one-on-one. Most have sent help. Some have all-out double teamed, and they've come from different spots. Some bring it from the baseline, some bring it off the passer, some bring it from the other big. So I want him to continue to be aggressive and catch the ball with feet in the paint, so you you can score before the double team comes. I think that will help some of that, but, you know, the defense and the rebounding, he's rebounded the ball really well here as of late.
Defensively, you guys, something you've mentioned the last couple of games is how well you guys have defended ball screens, kind of eliminating the three. How important is that going to be in this game? And
Yeah, it's
what
really
are those two
important.
shooters?
Obviously, transition, you know, for Iowa's, you know, they're going to come as fast as anybody does in our league and put pressure not only on the rim with their bigs, but, you know, you got a lot of guys running the wings, shooting threes. So trying to make sure we get our defense set as much as possible. And then obviously in the half court, you don't want to get caught in a lot of rotations. Because if you get caught in rotations, now you got longer closeouts. Now you're rolling the dice on if you're getting to shooters on time or not. So you avoid some of the rotations by not letting the ball get penetrated into the paint where you don't have to rotate, as I mentioned with the bigs and things that Steve has done to shut it off. So, you know, every game is different. It was, you know, it was like that against Indiana for different reasons, because we didn't want the ball coming downhill and have Ballo be a lob threat at the rim or get deep post touches. This is a little different in terms of you've got to be wary of so many three-point shooters. So controlling the dribble penetration and being good in ball screens, regardless of what coverage we're in, is important to any defense.
Felt like, you know, with the 2-19-2 runs, you guys excelled in transition, especially early. You're going up against a team, you know, who plays transition well. Is there a desire to maybe slow down the pace to maybe not cater to their transition, or how do you kind of balance that?
You balance it, I think, by how efficient you are offensively. You know, taking care of the ball, not having live ball turnovers, making sure we're finishing on our end, make sure we're getting to the free throw line, because that allows you to set your defense off a hopefully a made free throw. So there's a variety of ways, but I want us aggressive. You know, I want us coming right back, and regardless of who we play, I think that's when we're at our best, playing with some pace. And it doesn't mean you have to shoot it, but we need to put pressure on the rim. And Iowa does too. I mean, they don't always shoot it, but there's that constant threat of pressure coming back at you. So it's, you got to make sure we're really disciplined, and there can't be any celebratory high fives on the way back. We always say save those for the locker room. You know, we got to sprint and get back, and as a group be really good in transitions, not just one or two guys, because we need numbers. We have to try to get back and cover as much space as we can.
Against Indiana, Xavier, there were a couple times Xavier was able to, you know, put the ball on the floor and you know, make things happen that way, which, you know, at least from my memory, I didn't see that as much. Can that be a regular part of his game, or is that just something maybe you see more in practice that we just haven't seen in games yet?
No, I think what the difference was the other night was he finished and got positive production out of it. You know, when he's put it on the floor before, he hasn't always played off 2 feet. He gets in there off balance, loses the ball, turns it over, misses the shot. The first one he did Tuesday, he got fouled. You know, he got at the rim, he got fouled, and then in the second half, he was able to drive more from the wing. So he was able to kind of muscle and use his length and his strength to finish the rim. So that's something, especially at that 4 spot. You know, when you catch a closeout, because he can shoot the 3, they have to close to him quick, and usually he's driving an open lane line. So it's the matter of the finishing the possession, so to speak, for him, playing off 2 feet, knowing maybe extending one more dribble, getting to the rim. The one he got fouled on, he actually shot it with his right hand on the left side. I think he could have went, and we talked about it today, go left hand, so that defender has to come across your body to get to the ball. But you know, I want him aggressive in that. It's a matter of I always call him the 80% guy. You know, I need you to be 100%, meaning you made a great move in the perimeter, got by there. Now the next 20% to finish that play is playing off 2 feet. If you can't get there and flush it or dunk it or get clean to the backboard, you know you got traffic coming to your inside. Let's play off 2 feet and high jump towards the board and finish the play and not long jump or fall out of bounds. And that he'll finish more, a higher rate, and he'll obviously get to the free throw line more too.
In this year's rotation, it seems like the bench is pretty defined, and you know the minutes are dominated by those 4 guys. Was there an intentionality to having a defined bench role, or was that just kind of happen that way?
Both. I think you kind of let it organically. They find their roles, and you find who excels and really embraces their roles and is comfortable in it. And I think specifically with McGee and Gilmore, you know, I think they thrive in that role, and it's obviously really good for us. So some of it was, yeah, we need to develop a bench. It's almost impossible to play 10 guys. It's hard to play 9, even though we get Janicki in for that 9-10 minutes a game. And the same thing with Xavier. I mean, it's an ebb and flow. I don't have a set pattern or a number or threshold I try to hit, unless the game gets out of hand, and I can use those guys more and get them more experience and more minutes. But by and large, it's a gut feel after the first 2 subs. Then it becomes gut feel based on what I see and watching fatigue level of our guys and what we need too. So it's I like where they're at. They all contribute coming off and have helped us all year.
Speaking of those 2 guys, Xavier and Jack, like as we get into the thick of the season, like rotations kind of thin out. You can go to 7 or 8 guys. What do those 2 guys have to do in order to kind of stay valuable and stay playable down the stretch?
Stay ready. Stay ready. We always say stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And never knowing when foul trouble may arise, you may jump in there earlier, you may even be there more. So that's the challenge as a young player in those roles, is to discipline yourself to constantly stay ready and not get caught in la-la land, so to speak, if you haven't played in a little while, right? Or if your minutes dropped in one game, be ready, and then when your opportunity comes, jump in and take advantage of it.
When you
Right.
were, yeah,
I know it's only year 1 with Coach Randall, but with his vast experiences, obviously it's been a successful season for the team so far. What do you feel he's been able to add, just specific to his experiences and the development of this group?
Yeah, I think, he's been able to touch all parts, so to speak, and whether it's been the recruiting aspect of it. I think the unique perspective he brings, both, coaching internationally and in the professional ranks, and then Division II, the transient nature of a roster is commonplace, and having guys that are really comfortable in that environment, that knowing that we got to be really intentional and disciplined on how you construct future rosters. I think that experience comes to play. Obviously, being a head coach for as long as he was, there's not much he hasn't seen. So I think from that standpoint, it's a voice on the bench too that is, has seen things through my seat, so to speak. So it's like I said, his experience and his knowledge is pretty vast and pretty deep. And I think I thought the impact of where we are in this era, given his experiences, like I mentioned with the portal and NIL and just the constant, moving parts that happen, that he would be very comfortable in that because he's lived it, and it's proven to be true. And obviously we'll lean into that even more as we go into the spring and start to put together next year's team.
John Tomczyk of the Vice State playoff 2 feet at the beginning of the year. It seems like it's become more consistent from a point that you kind of alluded that it wasn't really, I guess, computing with the level that you need, I guess.
Right.
What are the improvements that I understand?
Well, he made a really good play in the first half Tuesday night. It actually made a better play out of our spacing, and angles were bad, but he was able to get down the right lane line, played off 2 feet, pump fake, let Mabako fly by, and then was able to use the glass and finish. So that's, I think he's, he understands it when he doesn't do it, he knows. So it's a matter of just continually to fine tune and ingrain that habit of, there's times when he's driven it and flushed it and dunked it, when you can get it and play off 1 foot and you have a runway to the rim, but knowing that he typically is going to draw a lot of attention when he puts the ball on the floor, right? It's going to be 2 or 3 guys coming to try to get their hands on him or stop him, and that recognition of when that traffic is there, what to do with it, and when you need to put on the brakes and when you can keep going.
when you were recruiting John, obviously in the portal he had committed to New Mexico. I was just curious, do you have could provide any background on how that kind of played out? I mean, were you tipped off, this might not be a done deal, or why would you?
We actually had talked to him before he committed to New Mexico, so we just said, hey, we really want to talk to you, and we'd love to have you get here, get on Zoom with us. Let's talk through things. And so we were able to have a touch point before all that happened, but that's you see football, it's really notorious for the flips. So I don't know if I want to call it a flip, because like I said, we had come pretty aggressively prior to his, and he just wanted to find what was best for him, and that's when he kind of tapped the brakes and said, all right, I need to step back and take a look. And I think our opportunity is, as he evaluated it, and his people that were helping him make his decision evaluated it, that it was really, really good for him to be here.
The other day when you were asked about the fast start, you kind of touched on the defensive part of it. And I guess I'm wondering, there've been other games where you guys have started fast. Nebraska, I think Rutgers was a pretty good start. USC as well. I mean, has that been a common thread? And if so, what part of the defense maybe has been kind of helping jumpstart this team?
Yeah, I think probably the other night was as fast. We talked about a jump start offensively, but we jump started defensively pretty fast. Like they had a hard time getting anything easy, and we were really proactive, as I say, not reactionary. We were in the right spot. We were beating them to cuts, and we were recognizing things. We were covering for each other when we had to lend extra help to the post. We made it hard for them to try to find the right passing angles. So I thought our activity level and our attention to detail was really, really sharp for the most part, most of the game. So that told me, and one feeds the other. When you're really sharp offensively, it feeds your defense, and vice versa. We were able to. I think there's no denying that those are connected, and you create energy from both of them. And I felt, obviously, we were knocking down shots on the other end, but we were pretty airtight on the defensive end too.
Let's go to there if we can. Some of the guys are